At a time when all are excited, hyped up, pumped up, and can't wait for the college football season, once again, life and the afterlife get in the way. And so on this day, we honor and give tribute to one of the greats of all time, Florida State, and otherwise one of the premier human beings that we've ever seen in the sports world, let alone college football. And of course, one of the greats on the sideline. Some bad news concerning Bobby Bowden, and we will discuss that off the top here at Florida State Seminoles Live with, of course, Jason Parker at the top, NBC6. Logan Robinson, please catch his work at Knoll Game Day, where they are tearing it up concerning Florida State football every day. Guys, how we doing today?
Doing good. It's been Logan beat up in Tallahassee. I'm sure he's, been a lot closer to the game, but I think for Florida State fans all over the state of Florida, all over the country, all over the world, whether you're a fan, alum, whatever you are, it's a very emotional day. So.
Nah, crappy day overall. It wasn't the prettiest here in Tallahassee, stormy, so it kind of all mixes in with the news that we received, and it's just, I don't know, kind of definitely ruins the day overall, most certainly, and kind of puts a stain on the week and months heading into football season, kind of.
Again, it's a time in which, with ACC Kickoff / media days going on across the country, but ACC Kickoff to celebrate the conference and the beginning of another college football season commencing today and running through tomorrow, this has put a damper on the day and saddens all of us. Anybody connected to college football, anybody connected to humanity, actually, that knows anything about the way Bobby Bowden has lived his life, has to be saddened today. So, just reading from the beginning of the ESPN article, just to get in the statement from the family here before we get the thoughts of everyone on the panel. Hall of Fame college football coach Bobby Bowden, diagnosed with a terminal medical condition. He and his family announced on Wednesday. I've always tried to serve God's purpose for my life on and off the field, and I am prepared for what is to come, Bowden said in a statement released by Florida State. My wife, Ann, and our family have been life's greatest blessing. I am at peace. The condition not disclosed. It's obviously none of our business. And the family will deal with the situation. And Bobby Bowden has always conducted himself with humility and class, Jason.
We talked a little bit about this last May, when Don Shula passed away down here. We mentioned how, this is something that affects us in the Florida State family because, at that time, Bobby was 90 years old. You knew it was going to happen someday. You just didn't want it to happen. It makes it harder when you have the Bowden family making this announcement saying that the inevitable is going to happen. I had the luxury to spend 2 years in Tallahassee working for one of the TV stations up there, had a chance to cover him on a weekly basis, literally interviewing him every Monday at this coach's luncheon, interviewing him after games, home games, away games. We were at the ACC Championship. We were at the Orange Bowl against Penn State, and then being able to cover him down here for 4 years when I was in South Florida. I can truly say that, and biasly as a Florida State alum, he was the best to cover. He truly was a great human being on and off the field. I will say one thing about him is that no matter who you were, no matter what your belief system was, we joke about it a lot. I'm the exact polar opposite of what Bobby Bowden is. I'm the liberal Jew. He's the conservative evangelical. Was always the most respectful. Was always just the most. There was one of his Monday events that fell on a Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the Jewish calendar, and I was at it, was covering it. We didn't eat. Actually, sorry, I'm getting a little choked up. Didn't eat because obviously you have to fast on Yom Kippur. He asked why I wasn't eating that day. I explained, it's Yom Kippur. He proceeded to know just as much about Yom Kippur as any rabbi I've ever met in my entire life. That's the kind of person he was. He knew everything about you. He may not have agreed with everything, but he would respect you, and he knew. He was a student of history. He was a student of just the common man. He was just somebody who you always wanted to be your grandfather in a way. And I lost my grandfathers when I was 11 and 13. He was somebody who, whether you're a Florida State student, whether you were a Florida State fan, whether you were alum, whatever you were associated with Florida State, he's a great human being. I still want to say he still is because he's still with us. Here's hoping that it's as long as possible. But at the same time, here's hoping that he truly does have a peaceful sunset.
Logan, if you're good, because of possible technical and time conditions, we got big game James Coleman on the line. We hope, who always adds a great deal to the show, but especially considering the news of the day. James, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm driving.
James, of course, we want to hear from you. We appreciate you stopping by and thinking of us right now. It sounds like you're in the car. James is extremely busy, can't join us on a regular basis, but he knows he's always welcome for this hour and any time on this channel. James, of course, we appreciate you stopping by. Your thoughts on this day?
You know it's coming. I mean, the man's 92 years old. He's not getting younger. But still catches you off guard. My father is a complicated man. I don't know any of my grandfathers, but he's probably the most solid man that I've had in my life. For at least that period of 4 years when I played, and even continuing. Every time I see him, it's like we haven't missed a beat. I've got a chance to interview him, got a chance to talk to him, check up on him after being a player, and his wisdom and the way and how sharp he is, it surprises you, it catches you off guard. But and I think especially toward the last few years, and I'm going to use him as an example of how we as a people probably should start thinking about things. So Bobby was a man. Bobby is an old white man from Alabama. I only expect him to think one way, and I have no problem with that. But if I'm to erase because of who he believes, and some of his decisions, what he meant for me for 4 years, because without him, I don't know I am what I am right now. Like, I don't know if I'm as polished. I don't know what it is. And granted, yes, he made millions off of young men like me. But we wouldn't play for him if he wasn't a genuinely good guy. If he wasn't a man that you wanted to image. If he wasn't a man you wanted to emulate. I don't necessarily know. My beliefs on religion are different than most. I don't know if there's a heaven or hell. I don't really care. But I know this man. I believe what he says. I believe he believes what he says. And there's very few people that I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I know he believes what he says. That man been with the same woman his entire life. He showed a commitment. It was not just to his university, but to his coaching staff, that even toward the end of his career, that nobody would show to him. This man could have went to Alabama in a heartbeat. He could have went to other places. He could have went pro. But instead, he saw something in the city in Tallahassee that he wanted to develop, that he wanted to impart, and made it and created a blue blood. We ain't been playing we don't have what my friend called leather helmet much. We are a relatively new beast onto this college football landscape, and the success that we've had is 100% attributed to him. There would be no Florida State without Bobby Bowden. And I know as men, as a guy who loves history, we're all flawed. We all have things that people might disagree with, But I say this right here: it's too much bickering back in the world off of little small nuances. When the totality of the person, the totality of the human, is so great that anybody can learn from it. And the way that guys who truly understood that played for him, it permeates through everything. Like my son is 8, and he thinks he's going to play for Bobby. He thinks he's going to play for Bobby Bowden one day. And it's like I said, it's sad because the physical person is going to be gone, but that legacy is what the most important thing in the world is to any man, and that legacy is what I would look at. I mean, I don't fault that man for any decision that he's ever made, because everything he did was for what he felt was best interest of the university, but the best interest for his family and those that he considered family. So I was blessed to play for a legend, and not everybody can say that. So that's my take on Bobby's death, without trying to get too deep into it, because I've purposely not commented on it all day because I don't want to cry. I don't like crying.
Well, James, thank you for saving your comments for us. We appreciate that.
I do actually want to ask Logan a question. I want to ask James as well, because both of you guys grew up in Tallahassee, where you were, you were around not just the success of Florida State on the field, but you also were around what Bobby Bowden meant off the field, what he meant to that community. And James, you so brilliantly touched on that. Logan, I want to go to you. You came to Florida State a little bit after James and I.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what it was like growing up in Tallahassee around that Florida State program that had Bobby, and what it was like growing up around Bobby Bowden in that program.
Well, it was number one. My dad always wanted me to go to Bobby Bowden camps, so I'd be there every year while I was young, and that's something I think a lot of people now my age, even a little bit older, would say. I got to take a picture with the GOAT, with Bobby Bowden, and spend time with him. And I'd actually go to a lot of the booster. My mom was heavy with a lot of the booster meetings, so I would be there next to him, sitting on his lap while he was signing autographs for a couple of years. And looking back at it now, it's just crazy, to think what a presence he's made here in this town. I mean, the news today spreads so quickly, and that just goes to show how much care there is for Bobby Bowden, not only just coach, but also the family, Miss Ann. I mean, everybody knows that family. They know where they live, and everybody's very respectful to that family, and they care a lot. And, being a young guy, a young kid, being able to go to these games and just knowing from my dad about, how well Bobby Bowden represented himself, how he represented Florida State, how he represented Tallahassee, was huge. And, how, James is saying too, as a player, to how he was representing that whole entire university and being, for some of them, a lot of father figures to them. And it's the news today is nothing that you want to hear. And I've got 2 pictures hanging above my bed of me and Bobby Bowden. It's just everybody. It seems like everybody's kind of got one of those, because that is the man, the myth, the legend that did this and built Florida State to what it is, and the program, and not even just the program, but overall as a university. You think of FSU, you're instantly thinking about Coach. So,
James, when the day inevitably does come, and like I said earlier, hopefully it's as long as possible. Hopefully we get as much of Bobby as possible, but we want it to be peaceful. What is his legacy? We know about the wins. We know about the championships. What is his legacy to you?
To me, is pretty simple. He's a guy who for the better part of life led and molded young men to become leaders, fathers, businessmen, great football players. I mean, I guess to use today's terms, he was a stimulus package for the hood. He took a lot of us out of our situations and made us into six-seven figure men. His example and his lifestyle and his charitableness, his philanthropy, has influenced guys like me to go give a little bit of money, go try to do book bag drives, but to as big as Ward Dunn, giving homes to the people who look like, to people who grew up similar to him. It's but the discipline, the rhetoric.
And we've lost James's wife.
So we lost James. Hopefully he comes back. He's certainly welcome, and we appreciate his words. They're very poignant. I appreciate the perspective of everyone here, because each one of you has a certain slice of Florida State football and athletics and the university that's unique. James, I think we got you.
Okay.
Yeah, man. Somebody called. I gotta get ready for radio, but I just wanted to get on because I know this was the hot button topic for FSU right now. And the good thing about your show compared to a lot of others, Mark, is that you do a good job of finding some of the best that cover FSU. And one of the unique advantages we have is having a former player. So I wanted to make sure that was shared today. But yeah, but like I was saying, it's just really just Bobby just giving hope and hope, encouragement, and an example of how to be. Man believed what he believed, and he stood on what he believed. And I can appreciate that. And I hope. And something that rung true to me when I was playing, we had a conversation. I was, I believe I was 20 about to turn. My birthday is Monday coming up, and I had this fear for whatever reason, because I had a lot of friends die early or go to jail or do some things like that. And I wasn't making 21, and I shared that with Coach. He told me, I didn't think I would make it to 50 because that's when his father passed when he was 50. It's just the connection, and just talking about you can't live in fear. You have a destiny. You don't know when your time is. You just gotta live and run that race until it's over. Again, that's a guy who, as simple as I used to think some of his mind was when it comes to football, I learned that that's what all geniuses do. Genius can break down to a fourth grade level. Like, they understand it so much. But the biggest thing is they can relate it to anybody. And I think he can relate life lessons in football to anybody. So that would be his legacy.
James, I know that you have done not just Coach Bowden proud, but Florida State proud. First of all, what I was going to say, I'm happy you came on, the events you did with the book bag giveaway. It's amazing work. You're doing great stuff, and we do sincerely appreciate you coming on and talking to us. We do sincerely.
Hopefully things slow down here a little bit. I'll be able to get back on more frequently. But
yeah, get back.
Thanks for thinking of us, James.
Get the Wi-Fi fixed. Come on, man.
Yes, definitely get better Wi-Fi.
Big game James Coleman making the time for us. That's very gracious of him, because like he said, he did not want to talk about this. He has not talked about it today, but he made that concession for us. So that speaks volumes right there. There's a lot of class right there. Speaking of Bobby Bowden, big game James Coleman, and that has been influenced by Bobby Bowden, as James told us. So
Mark, I do actually want to get because we're all Florida State people here. You're more of a, from Ohio, from the Midwest guy, but you grew up in the era when Florida State was starting to make a name for itself as a program. And you're also I would say, probably the more spiritual one out of the four of us who come on this show every single week. What does Bobby Bowden mean to you, both as a college football guy and as a man of God, I'd say?
Jason, if all three of us, and then James included, would articulate everything that we felt and thought about Bobby Bowden, I think we could do like 4 or 5 hours easy. So I'll try to be concise, because as you mentioned and articulated very eloquently, unfortunately, there's going to be a time fairly soon that we're going to be having this conversation again, and he's going to deserve it. So we will save, and I will save much of the football aspect of that and trying to put his legacy into terms at that point. So I'll speak very little to the football. I do think, as Logan mentioned, I do think that there's a legitimate claim there to being the greatest of all time. And again, I think that's a discussion we're going to have at a later date. I think there's a legitimate argument in a day in which Nick Saban was at the podium at SEC Media Days, and he's routinely called that. I think Bobby Bowden also has a claim to that. That's very legitimate. With some of the things that James was saying, what came to mind for me is Bobby Bowden always struck me as a guy that I can name a number of people, whether I know them personally or see them in the spotlight, that are jovial and outgoing and just seem like they just everything that they do and every day they're just embracing life. They just love life. They enjoy it. They get a big smile on their face. But most of those people live kind of selfishly. So they're enjoying life, but it's because it's give me, give me, give me. And I'm just kind of a glutton for life. Well, Bobby Bowden was able to do that and have that kind of attitude, but at the same time be a giving individual. So he got that joy out of giving to others. Look at this, what we just heard out of Big Game James. This happened 18 years ago, in which he received most of that input from Bobby Bowden. And it's still, he talks about it like he was coached by him last season. Just the impact that man had on people's lives. And like Logan said, and I can just imagine like every 5 to 15-year-old and above for years and years and years, man, just their dream was to stand next to Bobby Bowden and get their picture taken.
I'll say something. I'll interrupt you real quick. I apologize. I will say the one thing that showed me how much Bobby Bowden is loved is at my station say, all the Florida Gator alums, all the University of Miami alums, all the fans of the other programs in the state, literally, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. It's that universal respect. He has that universal respect that everyone realizes. I will agree with you. I'm going to say he's the greatest of all time.
There's a number of coaches that we could talk about both at the collegiate and NFL level where when this time comes, we'll be able to go on and on about their records and championships. And the personal side will be either somewhat negative or it will be kind of neutral. Like we didn't really know that much about them. They were just more of a figure on the sideline that got the job done and won the games and won the championships. But with Bobby Bowden, that just infectious personality and that just jovial spirit and he walked the walk. He treated people. I have never heard a bad word about the man. And it was great to hear also, Jason, from you in respect to having that interaction with him on a regular basis when you were working television in Tallahassee.
Well, plus, we don't all have bobbleheads of other coaches, but you have to have the Bobby Bowden bobblehead. It's in there with the Bobby Bowden helmet. We got the bobblehead in there. So
yeah,
you have to.
Yeah.
All right.
Before we all start crying, let's get back.
That was a bit cathartic there. I'm sure it was for you two, but me, just a love of college football, and again, from a spiritual aspect as well, just admiring the man. That was a bit cathartic, and that was needed on this difficult day. Florida State football talk here every Wednesday at 6:00 Eastern time, everybody. We appreciate everybody being here. Maybe I'll make the same deal to all of you that I made to the Nebraska folks last night. And I said, because we got a ton of complaints when I was 6 or 7 minutes late. And I said, you know what? Here's the deal. I'm just late by nature. It's a bad quality to have.
You are.
Maybe if we're on time next week, we can make the deal with everybody. We'll be on time if everybody that's watching us goes out there and grabs 3, 4, 5 people and brings them in. That's the deal.
It could work like that.
We could make that the deal.
And the like button too.
And I have a good hot take next week. So that's another
But they can be 45 minutes late for that.
Wow.
Well, no, I'm just saying they can be 45 minutes late. That's when you do the hot take. Okay.
Let's do it right now.
ACC kickoff was today. 7 of the 14 coaches and players associated with those teams stepped to the podium. The Coastal Division was the storyline. Jason, your take from what you heard from ACC Kickoff in Charlotte.
I think you have a lot of confidence in that side. And to me, I don't really know where that confidence is coming from. I think, first of all, I think it's a two-horse race, and we've talked about it. I think it's going to be the winner of the Miami-North Carolina game is going to win the Coastal Division. I really think it's Miami, North Carolina, and then a nice step down before you get to a Virginia Tech in that point right there. But you listen to it, I think we talked about it before. I think Miami's really confident. I think they legitimately think – I don't think they can beat Clemson, but I think they could give Clemson a game. And, Logan, maybe you can back me up on this one. I really don't know where that confidence is coming from because, this is a Miami team that got smoked by North Carolina, lost to Oklahoma State in the Cheez-It Bowl. Granted, I will give them credit. That was after D'Eriq King got knocked out, but they were getting beat before. Mm-hmm. Do you legitimately think, let's say in a perfect world, and we'll give our predictions later on in the coming weeks, but let's say it's a Miami versus Clemson in the ACC Championship game, or in North Carolina against Clemson in the ACC Championship game. Do either team really have a legitimate shot of beating Clemson right now?
Right now, I still think Clemson's a couple levels ahead. I think that's a reasonable prediction for sure. And I still want to see how healthy Miami is. I'd still want to, not Miami, but D'Eriq King, that is practically Miami in that offense right now. I want to see how healthy he is to start off the season where he's at, because that's one of his biggest attributes to him is his mobile capabilities and be able to run and read on the go. He played well last season. I don't think was phenomenal play, but he isn't in a Heisman race, but it all could change. And, depending on how well he looks going into the season, coming back from an injury like that, it's gone ways and ways better for people to cut back from now. But still got to see how he plays with that to start off the season. And then you look at North Carolina, Sam Howell, I think is the better quarterback here in this division. And, I think they lose some targets there, running back and also wide receiver, some talent. But Sam Howell is a great quarterback. He's will be one of the best in the college football this upcoming year. It seems like Mac Brown and their staff feel pretty confident about this upcoming season. But, nothing too much really strikes out to me, from these press conferences. It will still go on into tomorrow for the rest of the week. But, I think the real fun begins on Thursday when we get to hear from Dabo Swinney. And along with, you got Mike Norvell, you've got Jermaine Johnson, you've got Mackenzie Milton, and you've got Jordan Travis, two quarterbacks in attendance for this. There's going to be a lot of question marks.
Is Dabo going to admit he's going to step down? I mean, Dabo said that players were starting to get paid, he would step down.
Yep. So he should be announcing his retirement or his move to the NFL. Is there any vacancies? I think all teams have their coaches now. So
I mean, the Bucs could take him as an offensive analyst or something.
Maybe. Or maybe Saban will bring him in.
I think my thing with Miami is I feel like their confidence is also coming from the fact that outside that opener against Alabama, their toughest game is North Carolina right now because they should be favored in every game. I think they come into that game against North Carolina as a slight favorite, but they don't have – I mean, they have to come to Tallahassee to play Florida State, but right now I'd say Miami should be a double-digit favorite at least going into that game, and we'll see what happens as the season plays out. But North Carolina has to play Miami. North Carolina has to play Florida State. North Carolina has to play Notre Dame. So I think North Carolina is being a little bit more tread. I think Miami is kind of realizing the players like, okay, after Alabama, we've got a smooth road afterwards. So let's just not try to get annihilated. Let's not try to get D'Eriq King killed, and then maybe we'll be fine from this point. But I think they come into that game 11-1. Even if they come into Charlotte 11-1, I think Clemson mollywops Miami. And we'll talk about that later on in a few weeks when I give you a hot take pertaining to that. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I think there's going to be – I see this comment right down here below, but in the video, Jermaine Johnson says to both quarterbacks QB1. It sounded like he was just pointing to Mackenzie Milton, which he was, but he said QB1 and QB1 when going to both of them in the little video clip they shared. But I thought it was pretty interesting, too. Norvell spoke in a recent interview talking about Manny Diaz and his comments, throwing some shade at Florida State, saying that rankings right now don't matter at this point of the year, which is understandable, yes. But Mike Norvell, I wouldn't even really say responded to Manny Diaz, but, said we're not really worried about other teams right now. We're not worried about what other people are saying. We're kind of focused on our own system right now and staying focused on that. There's enough to be, distracted from. We're going to stay focused on our game plan and what we feel like is working. And it seems to be working. You're looking at Miami that's maybe down now in the 80s in recruiting, while Florida State's in the top 10. There's no reason for FSU to say anything whatsoever. And that's what Mike Norvell did. And, Manny Diaz kind of likes to, he bites on things, and Mike Norvell's not even putting anything out there for him to really bite on, except for rankings.
Let me intercept the conversation briefly, just because there's quite the conversation going on in the live chat. So let me make a few things clear. Number one, it appears as though
I was going to make fun of the Dolphins real quick.
Number one, it appears as though we had a Florida fan, George, come into the conversation, and if I'm reading this correctly, that he came into the conversation, didn't have the sound up, made a lot of disparaging comments about Florida State, and started in on Florida State, not knowing the weight of the day in the conversation, apparently. So then, of course, a lot of Florida State fans took offense to that. I can certainly understand that and sympathize and empathize with them. Then there were a bunch of calls for me to block George. So here are a number of things. So we can have a little bit of grace for somebody, first of all, if they're claiming that they didn't understand the weight of the conversation. Number two, if people do get into conversations like this and don't have enough class and don't understand the weight of the conversation, then we will block people that if they're going to just stir up trouble and they don't understand, this is not a time to trash talk. This is a time just to sit and listen and learn something and pay respect and honor to somebody who deserves it. Then if that's not understood by people, then we will start to block people. Then secondly, next would be that please don't tell me who to block or give me instructions. I will determine what and then also don't assume what comments I've seen. I always love when people said, you've seen this comment, you've seen that comment. And I'm like 20 minutes behind in the conversation. No, don't tell me what I've seen and what I haven't seen, or make an assumption of what I've seen and what I haven't seen.
You've angered the bear, folks. You've angered the bear. At least
I hate being told what to do.
At least let me make fun of the Miami
Number
Hurricanes.
two, I hate when people make assumptions and say that I've done something that I haven't done, or I've thought something that I didn't think. You don't know.
At least let me make fun of the Miami Hurricanes before we start talking about blocking people. But more importantly, first of all, Christian was a Dolphins fan, so obviously he's still living in 1972, so just ignore his comments. But here's my question for you. We talk about confidence level. How confident are you in the like button for the remainder of the show?
You feel confident, Mark?
Probably not too confident at this point.
Are you confident in the like button?
I am confident in the like button.
But Logan,
a great deal of confidence.
Logan, this is where you start selling the like button. Go.
Let the like button. We do this every week, and we're getting closer and closer. In about 2 weeks, we'll be talking pretty much some fall camp. We'll be giving our previews. We'll be talking about position groups, which we'll probably start next week, actually. So make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so then you'll be notified whenever we go live every week. Hopefully we'll get James back on here. We got a lot of stuff in the works on what we might be doing this upcoming season to kind of switch up some things maybe. So hit the like button, stay subscribed, so then you kind of stay alert on what we're doing on the show. It's been fun growing on here, and if you hit the like button, it just helps, and it's free. You don't have to do anything. It just helps us out. It's just a nice little gratitude for hanging out with us.
Mark, can you go back one comment to the gentleman's comment before? I believe it was John's comment. If you could. Please.
That one?
No, John made a comment about hitting the like button in honor of Bowden. There we go. Guys, do it for Bobby. Hit the like button for Bobby.
There you go.
Okay? If you're not doing it for anyone else, if you're not doing it because you don't like me, if you're not doing it because you don't like Logan, if you're not doing it because you love Mark, do it because you love Bobby.
Yeah.
What would Bobby do? Think about that.
Yeah.
He'd say, Dad, come on.
Jason, it's funny. I don't even remember what got us all started last week. Somebody didn't like me. It was the phony comment. It was the Mark's a phony, blah, blah, blah. That I pissed off a BYU person this week. You should have heard that.
Oh man.
That became like a 30-minute shouting match.
But it was a member of the Mormon
BYU.
So you and a member of the Mormon community not cursing each other, not going at each other. I'm sure that was an epic.
Logan, don't you like how Jason always takes the political or the religious angle on it? Like that never entered my mind. It was all about football for me.
I've never heard a Mormon person curse before. I've heard you say one curse word in the last 2 years, 2+ years we've worked together. So I'm sure it was an epic conversation. But here we go. Let's stay focused on Florida State. Forget BYU. They haven't done anything since 1984.
No, I don't want to talk about BYU.
Thank God. I know what you want to talk about.
And a BYU fan, I didn't even know they had YouTube over there. I didn't even know they had more than 5 fans.
Stop.
Like one of them made it to YouTube.
Be good. BYU is a fine school. It's a great school in the middle of nowhere, Provo, Utah. It's a fine location. So, Logan, I have a question for you. You get credentialed to ACC Kickoff tomorrow in Charlotte. Mackenzie Milton is there. Jordan Travis is there. Jermaine Johnson is there. I want to know one question you have for each one of them. Starting with Mackenzie Milton. What's the one question? If you could ask one question to Mackenzie Milton, what would be your question?
My biggest question for Mackenzie Milton, most likely, number one, I guess I can't. I'll just pick one. I'd say number one. What? Okay, I'm trying to fit 2 in 1.
These questions. Go ahead, Logan.
I'm trying to fit 2 in 1.
I'm going to give mine for Mackenzie, and then that'll give you a second right there.
Okay.
My biggest question for Mackenzie Milton is, do you still have the fear of the comeback? In the sense of, this is a man who, we've talked about this before, has not taken a snap since November of 2018. It's been well documented how horrific of a leg and knee injury that he did suffer. You're coming to Tallahassee with an offensive line that, with all due respect, is still not great. Is it better than it has been over the last couple seasons? Yes, probably, but it still is nowhere close to an offensive line that you really want to be around at this point. So I guess my biggest question is there some fear going into that Notre Dame game, the fact that you haven't taken a snap in over 2 calendar years? Is there a little fear in the back of your mind about that first hit, about that first time you get sacked, that first time you get blindsided? Mm-hmm. All right, Logan, try to top that.
That's tough. I don't know if I can be able to do it. I would say for me, I would ask him if he's starting. I'm just kidding. No, but I would ask him about the talent that he has around him this upcoming year. It's not that crazy of a question, but this offense has a lot of potential, I think. There's a lot of guys in that backfield that you got. With Toa Philly, young running back, you've got, I would say, a veteran, but he will be kind of a veteran. He's still very young, but you got Deshaun Corbin. You've also got Treshaun Ward and DJ Williams, Auburn transfer. But I want to know about the talent that he's got, because officially arriving when he came, he was already beginning to train once Andrew Parchment arrived in Tallahassee. They began training immediately, which Parchment is expecting to have a big season for FSU and have explosive plays, and that's something Milton, I'm sure, will comment on tomorrow about the explosive capabilities this offense can have. And he's also got, you've got tight ends, and you got to hope that the progression at the offensive line is getting better. So I'm interested to see, if I could ask him, I would ask him about the talent that is around on that offense. If he is truly at that helm and he's starting in that first quarter against Notre Dame, how excited is he about that talent? I also want to know some details on who he's been working with the most and who he might be most excited for.
I want to call him the gentleman from Connecticut, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, markrogerstv.com. Mark, you have a question for Mr. Milton?
I do. Can I rip off my 3 questions for my 1 question for each of the? Yeah,
you know what?
3?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
At least 2 of these questions are the type questions that won't be asked at media days. They're the type questions that I would love to hear the answer, but it would have to be closed door. Truth serum would have to be injected. Those type of questions, because they're never going to answer two of these three questions in front of media. For Jermaine Johnson, I want to know from him, based on his experience at Florida State thus far, how good of a D coordinator is Adam Fuller based on what he's seen here versus his experience at South Carolina. I want to know from Mackenzie Milton to compare the roster talent on this Florida State team versus what he played with at UCF in 2017 and 18. And I want Jordan Travis to tell me why he is going to be a better thrower of the football this season than he was last season. What has he done to make himself a better, not better quarterback, just thrower of the football now versus last season?
It's a really good question. It's almost like you've done this professionally before.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. It was pretty good. I think along those same lines, my questions for I gave a question for Milton. My question for Johnson would be, you've come from Georgia. You've come from a program that's played in the SEC championship game. You come from a program that, in 2017 was playing for the national title. You're coming to a Florida State program that's just had its third straight losing season for the first time since the mid-'70s. I guess my biggest question for him would be why. Aside from playing time, aside from being able to, play what I would, you could argue the schedule's horrific this season as far as how tough it is, but it's still not the SEC. So why make the move from a Georgia program to a real rebuilding Florida State program? My question for Jordan Travis would be, do you feel like you've done enough to be the starter? I think, Logan's made excellent points where Logan has talked about how he thinks that Jordan Travis will start the opener against Notre Dame. You could make a legitimate argument that after last season, Jordan Travis should start. I mean, he was the reason in several of those games. Probably you could argue he's one of the main reasons we beat North Carolina. You have that. I mean, the comeback against Jacksonville State. Yes, I just said those words. I can't believe I just had to say those words. The comeback against Jacksonville State. Oh, gross. That did not taste well. But I feel like there's an argument why he should be the starter. I do think Mackenzie Milton will be the starter because it's the big name. I think it's a lot like Everett Goldston was in 2015. But I think the question for Jordan is, do you think you've earned it? What do you think, Logan? What are your two questions for Jermaine and for Jordan?
For Jermaine, I want to ask him kind of a little bit like both of y'all's. Mainly, I think more like Jason's, but really asking him what has been the difference between Georgia and Florida State with him. Not only just maybe the talent that's around him, but the facilities and everything of that nature. And, kind of get his I would like to get a true answer on that and see if it really does mean something, if the training facilities, does it really mean all the hoopla, or does it just strictly football business when you get there? So I would be interested to hear his comment on that. And then going to Jordan Travis, I want to ask him if he feels open to sharing the quarterback room, sharing that starting position with Mackenzie Milton. It seems like Florida State, you're bringing both quarterbacks to the ACC kickoff. We are going to see a lot of them this season. And is it really going to be a dual threat quarterback literal system there with having Mackenzie Milton and Jordan Travis? And does he feel comfortable with that, or does, either way, they're going to answer it and how their SID has trained them, and worked with them. But I'd be interested to get his take on, if he feels comfortable with having a 2-quarterback system at Florida State, because we haven't really seen that much. You're not used to seeing that at Florida State, of having a 2-quarterback system. That we've seen it before, but that's whenever crap has hit the fan and you're kind of just throwing guys out there.
Yeah, that thought scares me. We've tried that before. We tried it before, not to the same extent that they did at Florida in '97 with Doug Johnson, Noah Brandeis. But we've tried it before. The thought scares me. I feel like if you have 2 quarterbacks, you really don't have one.
And let me make an amendment to my typo. I supplanted South Carolina for Georgia. I was getting Jamie Robinson and Jermaine Johnson.
We weren't
there real quick.
Notice how we just went on. We were just going to move on there because we weren't.
You're doing your best to make me look good.
I was trying to not throw you under the bus, but if you want to throw yourself, go right ahead there.
Got to. We correct everything. See, I even self-discipline to a certain extent. All right, Mr. G14 Classified always delivers some of the best comments. This is his favorite sports show right here with us three.
That's saying something.
I mean, thank you. I'm impressed. Thank you very much.
I'm definitely grateful. Definitely grateful. Definitely for the support 24/7 though. I'm saying it's crazy. We might have to get you tested, G14. We might have to get you tested.
G14,
but you know what?
Come to the Notre Dame game. Logan will be up in the bougie section. I'll be in section 27. You can come hang out with the real fans down there. We can yell, throw things at Logan. We'll be good. Come on down.
I'll throw a beer down to you.
I'll get you kicked out if you throw a beer. I'll be like, sir, that gentleman throw a beer.
Drink it.
Great topic served up by Jason there. I enjoyed that one.
We do make fun of Miami fans a lot, but I do want to give credit. Thank you, Mr. HD. We know you're a Miami fan. We do appreciate the support. Just like we give support to Mark Rick as he's going through his battle with Parkinson's. There's a fine line between football rivalries and real life, guys.
Yes. Hopefully we all get to that point. We at times see that some have yet to reach that realization that football's serious business and we want to win and all those things, but it doesn't compare to what goes on in real life.
Oh, I thought you were talking about living to 91. I'm trying to get to 38. Good God, man. Jeez.
78 is the number of games that were listed in that that article that you sent us, Jason. So I'll let you take it away from here in regards to the more intriguing, important games that involve Florida teams this season.
Yeah, so the Tampa Bay Times, Matt Baker, who's a writer for the Tampa Bay Times, is a great writer. He covers Florida State, Florida, Miami, covers all of them. He lists every year the top games, ranks the games in order involving the FBS teams in the state of Florida. There are 78 of them amongst the 7 teams. But what's interesting to me is that the pathetic, horrible 3-6 Florida State Seminoles have 3 of the top 6 games. He's ranked the Florida State Notre Dame game as the 4th best game in the state this year, the Florida State Miami game at 5, and the Florida State Florida game is at 6, and then Florida State North Carolina at 11, Florida State Clemson at 14. We've talked about how great these games are. We talked about how tough this schedule is going to be. Logan, I'm going to give you the platform right now. I mean, that's should be something right there that you're saying that 5 of the top 14 games in the state this coming season involve Florida State. I mean, you agree, you disagree? Because let's give some credit. There are some other tough games. Obviously, the Florida-Alabama game was ranked number 1. The Florida-Georgia game was ranked number 2. The Miami-North Carolina game was ranked number 3. The Miami-Alabama game was ranked 7th. That one surprised me that wasn't ranked higher.
Once again, Jason, number 1
was Alabama-Florida. There's a lot of Florida fans who think they have a legitimate shot against Alabama.
I would say that Miami. So what's the criteria here? Like most important games?
No, just the best game. I guess.
What is going to be the best game? That's not going to be the best game.
The top 78 games. So I could give that because I will say this.
Alabama's going to win that by 20 points. That is not going to be the best game.
I think Alabama does beat both Florida and Miami. I do think Florida gives Alabama a closer game for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it's in Gainesville. Number 2, I think Alabama's going to get a little beat up in the opener against Miami. I think Miami's going to play a little bit Miami ball, if you will. And I think Florida's going to be ready for it. Florida obviously has FAU and USF before, so those two should be 2 more warm-up games. So I think Florida has a closer game, so I think that's why it's a better game. But I think Alabama wins both. I think Alabama's the state champs in the state of Florida this season.
Mm-hmm.
But Logan, what do you think? Do you agree with Florida State having games ranked 4th, 5th, and 6th? Do you agree with that order? Do you think the Miami game is more important than the Notre Dame game? And just in general, do you think Alabama-Florida is the best game in the state of Florida this year?
I think the best game. I wonder if also it's like the entertainment value that he's going off of too. Florida State versus Notre Dame brings in one of the most highest ratings I know probably Mark can comment on it too, but for some reason, and it makes sense, it's got a small little rivalry there, but two big time names going at it, and they've had historic games. And so that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. And you got finally Notre Dame coming back to Tallahassee, which, you're looking at COVID-19, you're having a full packed stadium. Jason's going to be in the stands. I'll be there. James will be there.
Yep.
It will be back to normal. And that place in 2014 was unbelievably electric and wild, and ended up being ended in a good way for Florida State. But that didn't surprise me whatsoever for it to be up that high, because that storyline I think will be fantastic too going into it. You're on a Sunday night all by yourself too. There's no other college football game going on. You've got ton on Thursday, you've got them on Friday, you got them on Saturday. You only got one on Sunday and then one on Monday. It is one of the highlighted premiered games that weekend, and it's going to be absolutely insanity. So I definitely think that ranking is fine, and I think it's pretty fair too, at least in the competitive range. Right now we'll see when we predict the scores, but I think it's, as a competitive alignment along with entertainment value, it definitely fits in that top 5 range.
Yeah, and I agree. And like you talked about last year, Florida State was horrific, and the Notre Dame game brought in great numbers for all the NBC stations. So yeah, it was phenomenal for us last year. I will say this. I do agree with Florida State Notre Dame being the most important, best game, I guess, of the schedule. I would rate the Florida game higher than the Miami game, just because I think by that end of the year, we've talked about why I think Florida State has the best chance to beat Florida. And I've gone out and said I think Florida State does beat Florida this year. I think that alone, plus the fact that they didn't play last year, Florida and the SEC backed out of that game. That's why that game to me is a little bit more important to me. I'm a little bit surprised that the Clemson game was ranked below the North Carolina game. That one surprised me a little bit. I wonder if people are giving Florida State a little too much of a chance against North Carolina. That's that question. And then I do have a question for you, Logan, and a question for you. Logan. The Jacksonville State game was ranked 72nd. That's a game 6 days after the Notre Dame game. The UMass game was ranked 67th. So they think UMass is going to give Florida State a better game than Jacksonville State. Mind you, Jacksonville State is a team that was beating Florida State in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter last season. UMass is a team that scored 2 points against FAU. 2 dose points against FAU. I think we slaughter UMass, and I think Jacksonville State, I think we beat Jacksonville State convincingly, but I think that game will be a lot closer. So what do you think is the worst game on the schedule? Do you think it's UMass, Jacksonville State? What's our game that fans will be selling their tickets for Whataburger?
I'm a list guy. I love lists. So if you're going to list like the 100 greatest artists of all time or something like that, but that's a list in which if you look at 90 to 95, you're still looking at just quality artists that had huge followings. Music history is so long and elaborate that you can look that far down the list and you're still talking about legendary acts. When you're talking about the 78 best games in Florida involving Florida teams and you're talking about number 72 and does it really matter?
I think Jacksonville State gives us a better game than UMass.
I think it will. I'm going to the UMass game only because of the storyline of having Walt Bell back in Tallahassee. That's the biggest thing. That's my entertainment value. Florida State's going to handle its business, but UMass was god-awful, has been god-awful under Walt Bell. I think Norvell is levels ahead in the brain up there. And as a game planner and just overall, he's just a better coach, obviously. So I think mainly I'm just there for the storyline and having Walt Bell back in the stands. And it seemed like him. There's nothing really against Walt Bell. I don't think FSU fans really have anymore. Maybe they did whenever he was there because the product wasn't so pretty, but it was more of him not having a great relationship with Willie Taggart, Jason's best friend. And, that is what, Florida State fans shouldn't be too mad at Walt Bell, but I think still there's going to be a few boos whenever he gets announced as a head coach coming in.
I'm going to answer Richard Bass real quick here. So Richard Bass.
Well, I have yet to chime in on the best Florida games here.
I sincerely apologize. You go ahead, then we'll address Richard Bass. Go ahead.
Okay. So for me, my first question would be, do any of these three teams have a shot at a national championship or college football playoff? I don't believe that they do. So
No.
technically they do. Yes. Obviously they do technically, but Florida and Miami, yes, they could have an unbelievable season and maybe. So therefore my focus shifts to conference play because Miami's got a North Carolina game that probably will decide the division. Miami, North Carolina. Georgia's the best team in the SEC East. Florida's got a fighting chance. They beat them last year. They've got a puncher's chance, 15% chance in my estimation of winning that game and then taking over the control of the East. Therefore, to me, those are the two most important games on the schedule in Florida. And then for Florida State, I think it's the Notre Dame game because I don't think Florida State's equipped to win the conference yet. Therefore, like Logan and you both talked about, prime time, biggest audience, first game of the season, get off to a great start. Even if they don't win, play well, play close, show that you belong. Huge game for Florida State with a huge audience for the reasons that Logan cited. It's by itself. Anybody that wants to watch college football, it's the conclusion of the big college football weekend. That's going to have a huge audience, huge game for Florida State for the momentum for 21 and for recruiting. Enormous game for Florida State. But for Florida, it's Georgia. For Miami, it's North Carolina in my book.
To answer Richard Bass, if we go 8-4 or better this season, not only will I get a Mike Norvell fathead, it will go right here. Mike Norvell.
Oh, man. We got to remember this one.
Can we make custom ones?
Right here is where the Mike Norvell. So basically what he'll be doing is he'll be looking over me going, told you so. Told you so. Because my loyalty is to Florida State. I want Florida State to do well. My personal opinion about the coaching search and the way it happened, that's different. I want Florida State to do as well as possible. But we're not going 8-4 this season. But speaking of what Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, had to say, where he talks about the ACC this season, it's time for everyone's favorite segment on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Jason's hot take.
Yep. Ding, ding, ding.
Thank you very much.
There's your sound effect.
That was nice. I appreciate it. We're starting in high class here with this organization.
Absolutely.
So you brought up the ACC. You brought it up. And I've said before that I think Florida State will go 7-5 this season. As much as I hate to say it, I think the Miami Hurricanes are going to win the Coastal Division. That also made me want to vomit as I said that. But I think Miami wins the Coastal Division. I think they lose to Alabama. And I think that they have something in common with Florida State because my hot take for the 5th straight week is that both – I hope we do, Sammy. I really hope we do. Both Florida State – no one wants a Fuller fathead. That's not happening. No, that's not happening. If I'm predicting that both Miami and Florida State lose to the same team, and they played two teams the same this season. They both played North Carolina, and they both played North Carolina State. I think that Miami loses to North Carolina State. I think both Florida State and Miami lose to North Carolina State this season. I think Miami is not ready mentally to win the games they're supposed to win, and I think that the North Carolina State game will be a setback for them. It will ruin their chances of making the playoff. It'll ruin their chances of getting into that top 4 as an outside, like they tried to do in 2017 when they went into the ACC championship game, thought they'd compete with Clemson, and say maybe we can outside get into the playoff. I think the NC State game will set them back, and I think both Miami and Florida State lose to NC State this season. I know Mark Rogers' head is about to explode because of his dislike of Dave Dorian, his distrust of NC State. You have said it before. You are on record with your distrust of the Wolfpack, which is understandable. You've brought the facts to back it up, but I think NC State does it this year, and both NC State and Alabama compete to be state champs in the state of Florida.
NC State, clarify one time for me.
NC State beats both Miami and Florida State.
Okay.
It's bold. I know. It's bold.
Sure. It's not that bold.
It's bold. It's bold.
It's like a mild hot sauce on wings.
I don't see you coming up with any hot takes. I see you getting drunk and doing shotgunning beers. Well, I'm doing work for this show. I'm trying to work for
and we're here to comment. We're here to give opinion. We're here to give our opinion. That's our part of it. And I think it's like a mild Buffalo Wild Wings. I think it's mild.
But I think it's going to come because you look, they play NC State the week after North Carolina. They go to North Carolina on October 16th. They host NC State in their rental stadium on October 23rd. So I feel like they're going to come in high. They'll be their 5th straight win in a row over North Carolina. And then North Carolina State will kind of give them that little, oh, wait, we're not as good as we once were.
There's a comment in here, and someone must have watched our video or was on our live stream or on the NG, but saying, Sammy, love him, always supports us, appreciate him hanging out, but saying that I can't talk, Jason, because I predicted Jordan Travis to have the best camp out of all the quarterbacks. But if I were to put that out on a tweet, I'd get absolutely decimated with people. I'd be like you with the Miami fans hitting your DMs. If I were to say that Jordan Travis has the best camp, then that would, mean that he'd potentially be the absolute starter. And people aren't understanding that they would come for my heads if I said that he would be the starter.
First of all, don't come for Logan's head. He needs his head. He has to eventually.
I need to keep it. Yeah, I need to graduate.
He needs to graduate at some point from Florida State, so he needs his head so he can do his finals papers. I don't disagree with you. I think Jordan Travis, if you're going to ask right now, gun to my head, who is the better quarterback for Florida State's system, I think it's Jordan Travis, just because he's been there. He knows the system. He's been with Mike Norvell for a season. He's been with Kenny Dillingham for a season. That being said, I just feel like the pressure of the name that comes with Mackenzie Milton, the backstory, the comeback story. I'm not saying that Mackenzie Milton is going to be the starter by the end of the season, but I think for the Notre Dame game, by default, he has to be the starter.
Yeah. I mean, I love the storyline. I think it's phenomenal, but at some point, you got to just go to what's working the best and inspect and straight up football. And that's what I hope. I think that's how I think Norvell's mentally, and you got the storyline. I'm sure Mackenzie Milton, whenever they talked and he was making his transfer to Florida State, he wants him to be that guy coming as a leader. But if Jordan Travis performs the best out of all the quarterbacks there in that camp and it looks good in the system, I think a lot of FSU fans might be not so happy with it, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it's going to be a very fun fall camp to watch. I think those two are going to help each other enormously. Definitely Jordan Travis learning from Mackenzie Milton. It's going to be huge. But I still, there's some things that I saw in the spring a little bit. I know the spring game looked good for Milton, but I still think there's some more things that he's working on and getting the system down. And Jordan Travis, this is year 2 for him, a full spring, getting to be with Milton too in that film room. I just think a lot of people are counting out number 13, and I'm not really understanding fully about it. They're on the Mackenzie Milton train. I completely understand that. He was one of the most talented quarterbacks. Could he be that again? We'll see.
I love the number 13. Shout out to Dan Marino, greatest quarterback in NFL history. But I just feel like it's going to have to. I feel like the ticket sales alone are going to make Mackenzie Milton. But next week,
top 10.
Next week, greatest quarterback ever in NFL history. Did you ever see that running game? That was got all the defenses. Best quarterback ever. I'm sorry, was any other quarterback in Ace Ventura? No, it was Dan Marino, greatest acting quarterback ever.
No.
Next week,
of all time.
the hot take segment that's taking the world by storm, why one team may want to join the ACC. You'll understand.
Okay. UCF is joining the ACC.
Wait, what? No. No, dear God, no. No.
That might be a good move for the conference. I think it's a good look.
First of all,
UCF in the ACC.
Let's address this real quick. Texas and Oklahoma are not going to the SEC. That's not happening.
I hope not. That's going to ruin the sport.
This was done.
We don't want that.
Let's be honest. And you've covered college football for decades, Mark. Logan, you've covered college football
for like 6 months. 6 months.
At least
a couple months now, yeah.
Ever since you got your Discord up, you've been good to go.
Yeah, exactly.
116 shows.
116 shows, you've been good. They did this to get the Big 12 to get another quality member. Because if you think for a second, let's say Texas and Oklahoma, first of all, let's say they did go to the SEC. Number one, that would give the SEC 16 members. That's not going to happen. So the SEC is going to have to get rid of 2 members. If they both went to the The SEC would have to either revamp the East and the West or make it a North-South conference. Either way, if they're in the West, they'd be with Alabama, LSU, and Auburn every single season, as well as Texas A&M. If they went to the South, they'd be with Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Florida. If you think Texas, Oklahoma, I think could hang. If you think Texas wants any of that smoke every single season of having to play Alabama, LSU, and Texas A&M, and then either a Florida or a Georgia, Texas doesn't want that.
I don't think either one of them want it.
They don't, and that would be the dumbest move. And I agree with you. I think it would ruin college football. I think if you want something to happen, here's what should happen. Here's Jason Parker's ultimate solving problem to fix college football. You ready? Are you writing this down?
I've already fixed it. We've got videos out there. I've already fixed college football, but let's get your version, Jason. Okay, go ahead.
45 seconds. There we go. Here's what you do. You kick Nebraska out of the Big 10. Send Nebraska back down to the Big 12. Send them back. That was a failed marriage from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The Big 10 goes hard at Notre Dame. You can convince Notre Dame to come in to that conference by they'd be in the weaker division. They'd be in the Western Division, where they'd only have to play Wisconsin would be their toughest foe. They'd only have to play Ohio State every other year. Michigan could be their cross-divisional, game every single season. That's fine. You've got that good to go right there. The ACC kicks Louisville out because, I'm sorry, that was a lost marriage from the beginning.
Okay.
Send Louisville to the Big 12. So then you have Louisville, West Virginia, Iowa State. They're kind of in a little bit of a zone together, so you at least have some local.
Louisville, West Virginia, and who?
Iowa State. It's local.
They're in a zone? Iowa State and West Virginia?
It's closer than Austin, Texas.
Let's get this man a map.
It's closer than Austin, Texas. Let's be honest there. So then the ACC can go in and recruit your favorite team, the 2017 fake national champion UCF. Bring UCF in. Come up. Come join the ACC and lose 3 or 4 games every single season. That's fine right there. And then to make a 14th team, the Big 12 can go get BYU. It's independent. It's not in a sexier market, but it's in the Rocky Mountains. They're a good quality team. You've got BYU, you've got Nebraska, you've got Louisville. The Big 12 gets better. I think the ACC gets better. I think the Big 10 gets better. It's a win for everyone. And then once again, the Big 12 will go from Big 12 -2 to the Big 12 +2.
Okay. My quick take on that is that a lot of that are components of my proposal, which if you go back years, you can look it up, and I've revised the proposal a number of times. I deal with out-of-conference scheduling. I fix that. I fix in-conference scheduling, which I'm not going to talk about right now because it would take an hour for me to explain it. So anyway, I've fixed the inequity of out-of-conference and in-conference scheduling. So that's number one. Number 3, I guess, on that list would be what Jason just reviewed, and that's the conferences. So my quick take on that is I built 6 12-team conferences. So I don't like the 14 teams. I pared it back to 12, and I built a Big East conference. I rebuilt the Big East, and I sent Louisville, Syracuse, Pitt. They need to leave the ACC.
Whoa.
West Virginia, Penn State. I built a Boston College, a Northeast conference,
Whoa.
Big East football conference.
Whoa.
Yes, I also brought Notre Dame into the Big Ten. I also took Texas A&M and Colorado, or Texas A&M and Missouri, put them back into the Big 12, bolstered the Big 12 with Nebraska and those two, brought UCF, and I believe it was, now this would, bear with me, this was a few years ago when South Florida was playing better football.
Okay.
I injected UCF and USF into the ACC and lost the 4 Northeastern teams to move them into my new Big East conference. Yes, and then I put BYU and Boise State into the Pac-12.
I think even if USF was still what USF was a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
I still don't think you want both, because I feel like in the ACC, first of all, I don't think the ACC needs UCF because you already have Miami, you already have Florida State. If you want the Central Florida market, you've got Florida State, which has a large fan base in Orlando, a large fan alumni base in Tampa. So you've got that. I feel like UCF, it's a good football story. It's a sexy football story. I think UCF is playing better football right now than Louisville. They obviously play the third week of the season, so we can find out whether I'm right or wrong. But I just feel like there are ways to do it to make college football a little bit better. And one way is not having a 16-team SEC. That just stop.
Yeah,
just stop
that's going to kill the sport. All right. Jason has his hot takes. My hot takes are that my predictions are being released video by video. I've released about 5 or 6 teams. And you know what? I did this the other day. Yeah. See, I don't want people to see it. So I threw this up. You know what somebody actually did? They must have screenshotted it and blew it up, because then they tweeted me something where they didn't like one of my predictions for a video that is yet to be released. So anyway, that's out there. The super chat must be down today. Is the super chat down today? Anybody? No super chats today.
Nothing. Dry.
I thought we killed it today too.
But we did start off with sadness. I haven't attacked the Miami Hurricanes at all. Next week, I'll take a shot at the Miami Hurricanes in the first 5 minutes.
Of course you will. Like this has never happened before. So the last thing I'm going to leave everybody with, unless Jason or Logan have anything, is check this out. I had a viewer send this to me. I didn't know it was coming. Just send that to me. They sketched that.
Why are you pointing at me?
They sketched that on wood.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
so
wow.
this is being sent to me.
That's pretty cool.
So then I checked that out, and then they gave me about 10 other examples, and there you see the link down below, so you can get you send your photo, you choose your layout of how you want it displayed, and you go to tristatesketch.com, and you can buy one, get one free. If you drop my name, Voice of College Football, Mark, however you want to state it, you get a buy one, get one free deal right there, and they're pretty impressive. Check out their work.
I feel like if we send them something, we may get a chance to get it back to us before Logan sends us a bracelet.
That is true. That is accurate. I don't get my car back for 2 weeks, so that's kind of close. We're going to be nearing that. I promise, though, before football season, before kickoff, there will be hats and bracelets on your doorstep.
It's called Taltran. There's a bus system that can take you around Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they call it Safe Bus. Or do they still have
just the city bus. I just have the city bus.
Okay.
I can take the city bus, yeah. And it's right outside my neighborhood.
And Sammy, thank you for the reminder. We'll let Logan tell everyone where they can, where he can be found.
I appreciate it. I know I was highlighting his comment earlier, and he's always been around both of our channels and such, but definitely appreciate everybody hanging out with us. And definitely we're trying to do a lot more. We do our shows on Thursday nights at 8:30. If you're not in the Discord, I don't know what you're doing. Patreon.com/Null Game Day. So then you'll be notified anytime Nuggets are going on. I'm jumping back into what we call Bat Caves, where I go into our app on here and I talk about 30 minutes to an hour on things that I never share anywhere else. Some things that are private that get shared to you guys. Nuggets and inside scoop. So there's a few things last season that nobody even knew about, but was only private to people inside that Discord. And no, it's only related to FSU football,
okay.
Jason. You're thinking the wrong way. You're thinking you got to get your head out of the gutter, Jason.
You've brought your A game with that gutterness a few times, so that's why
I have. You never know what could go on in there, honestly. But Patreon.com/Null Game Day, only $2.99 a month, the cheapest out there of any outlet. Only $35 a year. $35 a year.
Mine. I'm at $5 a month.
No, I think that's good, but you have a whole wide range of one team or schools. We're just focused on one.
You're bragging about being the cheapest. That's good.
Yep. Cheapest. We're like a Dollar General. I go there and get some great products.
The only thing I was disappointed about in all that is there was a certain word that I didn't hear mentioned.
He said it. No, he said it.
Oh, did he? Was it in there? Or did I miss it?
He said it, and I went.
I snuck it in there really quick.
Okay, I was going to say I missed it.
It's becoming so smooth to you, Mark. You're just like, it just nothing. It just goes right through.
It's disgusting.
And we have the right mic. You're using the right mic, Mark. Got the right one plugged in.
Oh, that's right. Logan bailed me out today, and it was on a Miami show in which my Miami contributor on that show, it wasn't Cam Underwood. Cam is pretty respectful to Florida State. This particular guy, the wholesome one, hates Florida State.
Oh.
Like, doesn't say the words. But I don't know if you stuck around, Logan, long enough for me to say, hey, thanks for saving my butt, the whole deal. Yeah. And I'm like, hold someone, you're not going to like this, but this show is totally brought to you by and totally saved by my Florida State guy.
Yeah, no, he wasn't so happy. He didn't have a really fun reaction to that. Like, oh, nice of them to do that. It was just kind of like no facial expression.
I was rushing so fast I forgot to.
And when is this whole thing going on? I think I commented on it, but when is the whole Jason and Cam going at it? We got to have it before the season kicks off. What are we doing? I'm trying to get a bag of popcorn, get a couple beers, and sit here for about an hour and a half. And
truth be told, it's not Jason's fault. We're waiting on Cam, waiting for a response. Right. Need to get him to schedule.
Cam, I'm willing to come to your house. At the show on Thursday. No, not actually come to his house, but I'll come on a Miami podcast, whatever's convenient for you. I will come on, let you know why 2013 would beat 2001 Miami. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. The only thing I ask in all that is that we not schedule it like 20 minutes before we do it. Like I want sufficient time, like 3 days, to just pump it up.
Mark, I've been
blow it up.
Weeks.
I know you have been. I know.
This one's not on me.
I'm doing what I can. It's just like my merch. I'm relying on 2 other people, really 1 other person. So like people are always asking me, where's the merch? Well, I guess I need to just do it myself.
It must be nice to get merchandise once in a while. Nice.
Yeah, I'm just hearing Cam's hiding, I guess, man. Jason got him nervous. You've got him nervous.
Why are you? What are you trying to be, Paul Bearer here?
I'm trying to get things going here. It seems they're a little nervous. James would probably say the same thing. Cam is nervous.
Did you guys see what just happened? Look at the logo in the top right corner. It usually is the silver logo, just the standard logo, and now it got a little flare, a little splash of hot pink. Can you guys see that?
Well, this has been officially the point where we need to stop this now.
It just happened.
I don't see it for me. I don't see it. It looks regular to me with a little bit of brightness around it.
Maybe that's what's on your wall.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us this week with Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We're going to bail out of here.
Well, yeah, we're way overdue, but I didn't know that you signed off, Jason. I didn't know that was your role in the show.
We need to stop this.
Yes, we do. Florida State Seminoles live every week, Wednesday night at 6 for Logan Robinson, Noel Game Day for Jason Parker, NBC 6. We will see you next time, which means a call-in show at 8 p.m. tonight.
Make this madness go away.
Jason's got